Hi, everybody. This is the investing teacher, high school science teacher, teaching others how to invest. In this video, I'm going to do a quick update on Palantir, PLTR, where I rolled down and out, and also go over a listener question. Let's get right to it. All right, so I had a listener question from a Facebook group that I'm in on option wheel strategy, and he was wondering when is the optimal time to sell a cash secured put. So I'm going to go over some of the main reasons why I think it's a good idea in terms of the timing to sell a cash secured put. All right, a few cases where it might make sense is if you have an immediate down day and the premiums are usually higher. If you sell a cash secured put on down days, they're going to be worth more in general. So let's say the stock was at 30 and you're thinking of selling a cash secured put at 25. When the stock goes down to say 28 or so, you should be able to get a little bit more premium than on another just normal day. Another time might be right after earnings, because then you'll have more time for the actual stock to stay within the next earning date. Typically, most earnings are every 3 months. So right after earnings, if the implied volatility is not necessarily super high, could be a good time to go. If there's not much in upcoming news, let's say that there's not a big merger or some big new product coming out, in that case, the implied volatility will typically be a little bit lower and it could be a little bit more stable. In general, I don't recommend to wait too long on your cash secured puts. Leaving money on the sidelines for too long could hurt in terms of not getting that time value or the theta decay. So you should have positions most of the time. That's not to say have 100% of your positions, but you should have at least a small amount that is ready in case you need to buy to close a position or find another position that you might like that might be better than what it was before. Okay? So again, as a review, immediate down day, premiums are usually more. Right after earnings, not much upcoming news, and don't wait too long. The listener also looked at some possible positions and he wants to know my thoughts on it. So this was Virgin Galactic SPCE. This has been a pretty popular one to sell cash secured puts on. Right now it is January 5th. If you look 10 days out to January 15th, stock price at 24. If you sell around the 21, you would get 1% per 10 days. It's not a bad return. 22 is a pretty popular one as well because you get 2% and your delta is less than 0.3. Another new website that I just found is ivolatility.com. This shows the implied volatility of different positions. So when you go to ivolatility.com, it will say the relative percent of volatility over time. So the implied volatility, again, for SPSE is about 80 to 83%, which does give some pretty decent returns. Another one I want to look at is NIO. They do electric vehicles in China and pretty volatile stock as well, 147 million shares just today. 5320, looks like about 10 days out on NIO. So 5320, I'd look around the 50, high 40 range. Let's look at, say, 48. You could get a 3.33% return in 10 days with $164 in premium, and delta is about 0.24. If you're a little more hesitant because in China they're thinking about delisting certain companies, they didn't actually go through with it, but it's a possibility. You go a little bit lower, let's say you go to 45, you're still returning about 1.7% in 10 days. So it's still pretty good returns if you're willing to take the risk on it. Last one was XLE. XLE is an ETF for materials, energy essentially. These returns are quite a bit lower because your applied volatility is lower as well. So do XLEIV. Look at the implied volatility for it. So implied volatility, again, for the ETFs are typically lower than individual holdings. Here we have about 40 to 43%. And 10 days out, again, for 39.66, I'd look at around the 35 or 36. 36 will pay you 0.28%, definitely lower than the other positions, pretty likely to be non-exercise. If you want to go down around delta of 0.3, I would look around the 38, and that does pay a higher premium of about 0.4 0.42 to 0.46, so 1% in 10 days or so. So XLE would actually be a pretty good option for selling cash secure puts in the challenge that I'm doing, because my goal is to get 2% per month. If you get the 1.11% in 10 days and average that out over many, many weeks and months, you should get pretty close to the 2% per month, I would think, after you have to sell all puts and all that. Last thing I want to go over in the channel was I did do a new option for PLTR. PLTR, I did do a strike price of 27. I did get a big premium of $157 for it, but stock price is not very close to the 27. So I ended up buying to close it at $311. I actually have a loss on this position on about 160 something dollars. But I decided to make another position PLTR where my premium was $369. So I buy and I close it for $311, but getting a new position of a cash secure put at $369, it is a net credit. I did roll down from 27 down to 25, so I get a little bit more wiggle room on it. And I did make my date of expiration out. Did have to do it out a little longer than I'd prefer. I went out a month and a week to February 2nd. I just didn't want to, so I want to have these shares assigned. I could have sold covered calls, and I'll probably end up doing that for a different position sometime in the future. But it was an update for PLTR. I'll be able to buy to close at 311 instead of about 50 yesterday. So I decided to just take the plunge and then do a new position. In this case, my total profits has changed. I was at 422. I took the loss here and I made it down to 170. And then with my extra premium in the new position, I'm still at $539. I did invest a little bit less now that I'm at $98.50 because my cash secure puts at 25 compared to 27. So there's $200 less. I don't think I'm going to necessarily do much of that. I might possibly look at a very small weekly cash secure put at like 3 or 4 or something, but it's probably not even worth the trouble. So for the other positions that I'm still looking at, CRSR had another big up day. Its premium could be bought around 40 at this point. So I'm going to take an eye on that. If I could buy it back at, say, 20 to 25 in the next week or so, I'll probably end up doing that. All right, so again, this is the investing teacher, high school science teacher, teaching others how to invest. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Again, I like doing these videos with any type of user or subscriber questions. Feel free to leave any comment down below if there's any ticket symbols you'd like me to look at. If you send me 1 or 2, I'll go into a little bit more detail. If you're sending me 5 or 6, I'll do it a little bit quicker like I did here. All right, guys, keep on trading. Have a good one.